My name is Claire Okafor. I'm 31 years old. On a Wednesday afternoon in March, I was driving home from a 12-hour day on a construction site outside Calgary when black ice on Deerfoot Trail sent my car spinning into the concrete median at 110 kilometers an hour. I called my parents from the ditch while the airbag dust was still settling. I could hear my mother's voice before she even said hello. She sounded annoyed, like I'd interrupted something. I told her I'd been in an accident, that I couldn't feel my left arm, that I was alone on the highway, and it was -23. She said, "Is it life or death? Because Kayla needs us right now." She had a thing with her car today too. Just a fender bender, $600 in damages, but she's completely devastated. She said too, like my totaled car and my sister's parking lot scrape were the same category of inconvenience. I heard my father say something in the background. My mother said, "She'll be fine. She's always fine." She hung up. My husband Marcus was in Vancouver for a conference. He answered on the first ring, dropped everything, booked the next WestJet flight home. He landed at YYC at 11:30 that night, came straight to the Foothills Medical Center without stopping at the house, sat beside my bed until 3 in the morning, still wearing his conference lanyard. My parents arrived the next afternoon at 2:17. My mother walked in and said, "You look exhausted. Did they give you something for the pain?" Also, Kayla's really shaken up about the whole car thing. She might need a few sessions. "Do you think your benefits cover therapy for a family member?" I want to tell you I was surprised. I wasn't. Now let me take you back to where this actually started, because the highway was just the moment I finally stopped pretending. I grew up in Airdrie, about 45 minutes north of Calgary. My parents, Ronald and Patricia, bought their house in 1998 for $187,000. It's worth somewhere around $540,000 now. My father retired early from the city of Calgary at 62. His pension is $2,800 a month. My mother works part-time at a floral shop in Crossiron Mills, brings home about $1,400 a month. They are not struggling. They made choices that looked like struggling. My sister Kayla is 34, 3 years older than me. She has lived in my parents' basement since 2021. She does not pay rent. She describes herself on social media as a lifestyle content creator and wellness entrepreneur. In 3 years, her combined income from all platforms has been $1,200. I know this because I did her taxes last April as a favor. She has not held a salaried position since she was let go from a dental receptionist job in 2020 for missing too many Monday shifts. I finished my civil engineering degree at the University of Calgary in 2015, my PhD designation in 2019, and I've been with Morrison Structural Group ever since. I lead a team of 7. We designed the pedestrian bridge over the Bow River that opened last spring. I am not saying this to impress anyone. I'm saying it because for the last 6 years, my parents have told their friends and extended family that I work in construction administration, which is technically true, the way calling a surgeon a knife person is technically true. In April 2019, 3 months after I got my PhD, my parents invited me to dinner. It was a Sunday. They used the good dishes. Kayla wasn't there. That should have told me something. My father slid a folder across the table, between the roast and the mashed potatoes. It was a HELOC application, a home equity line of credit against the Airdrie house. $320,000. He said they needed to consolidate some debt, cover a property tax arrears situation they hadn't mentioned before, help Kayla with a business loan she couldn't qualify for on her own. He said my name on the application would make the difference in the interest rate. He said it was just a formality. He said they'd handle the payments, that my name would be off it within a year, 2 at most. My mother held my hand. She said, "We wouldn't ask if we didn't need you, Claire Bear." I was 26. I had a brand new designation, a starting salary of $82,000, and a credit score I'd spent 7 years building carefully. I said yes. They made 4 payments. 4. Then the first e-transfer request came. "Just to cover this month," they said. Things are tight with Kayla's startup costs. I sent $800. The next month it was $1,100. By month 8, I was sending $1,500 every month through Interac and making the HELOC minimum payment myself because the bank started calling me, not them, because my name was on it. I made $78,400 in principal payments on that line of credit over 5 years, while my parents paid $0. I have the statements. I have all of them. The monthly transfers totaled $94,200 over 6 years. Some months they called it rent for Kayla, some months it was for the furnace, some months it was just the situation. I stopped asking for explanations around year 3, because the explanations were always the same shape. Kayla needed something. Things were tight. I was the one who could handle it. In November 2021, I co-signed a $14,000 car loan for Kayla because she couldn't qualify a loan. She made payments for 2 months. Then she said the car was causing her anxiety, and she stopped using it. She never made another payment. I made them for 18 months, until she sold the car to a guy she met on Facebook Marketplace for $9,000, and I never saw a cent of it. She said the money had to go toward her wellness certification course. The certification was from a website that is no longer active. I missed my own engagement party planning, because my parents called the afternoon Marcus and I were supposed to tour venues, and said Kayla was having a crisis. She had posted something on Instagram that got negative comments. I spent 4 hours on the phone with my mother talking her through Kayla's feelings, while Marcus drove to 8 different event spaces alone and took photos to show me later. He never said a word about it. He just handed me his phone and said, "I liked the 4th one. The ceilings are nice. That man is the reason I got through any of this." Marcus asked me once, maybe 2 years into our relationship, "Why do you keep sending them money?" I said it was because they were my parents, because things were genuinely hard sometimes, because I didn't want to be the kind of person who abandoned her family over money. He nodded and said, "Okay. But I want you to know that what you just described isn't money. It's a pattern." I didn't have a good answer, so I just kept sending the e-transfers. The Wednesday, it all fell apart. I had been on site since 6:30 in the morning. We were doing a structural inspection on a pedestrian overpass in Cochrane. It was cold. The kind of cold that gets into the gaps in your gear, and I'd been on my feet since before sunrise. I left site at 5:15, and I was 40 minutes from home when the rear end of my car went sideways on the ice. There was nothing I could do. The median came up very fast. I sat in the car for maybe 30 seconds after it stopped moving, running inventory on my body, the way my first aid training taught me. My left arm was numb from shoulder to wrist. There was blood on my face from the side window impact. My chest was tight from the seatbelt. I was conscious, I could breathe, but something was wrong with my arm, and I was on a highway median, in the dark and weather, that kills people who sit still in it. I called Marcus first. He didn't answer. He was presenting at the conference. Phone on silent. I called my parents because that is the number your fingers dial when you're scared, and there is no rational thought involved, just 7 years of muscle memory. My mother answered. I told her what had happened. I told her I was on Deerfoot, between Anderson and Glenmore, that I'd hit the median, that my arm was hurt. She asked if I was dying. Not as a medical question. As a threshold question. As in, if you are not currently dying, I need to rank this against the other things happening today. I said I didn't know. I said I was alone, and it was cold. She said Kayla had clipped someone's bumper in the Costco parking lot on Sarcee Trail and was absolutely beside herself. She said my father was already with her. She said, "You have Alberta Health. They'll take care of you. Kayla doesn't have anyone else right now." Kayla is 34 years old. She has 2 parents, a vehicle that still functioned despite the fender bender, and a phone with a fully charged battery. I was in a ditch in the dark. "Tell her we hope she feels better," my father said somewhere in the background. My mother hung up. The ambulance came 11 minutes later. A paramedic named Tyler stayed with me the whole way to Foothills and talked about his dog the entire time. I think because he could tell I was trying not to cry, and he was giving me something neutral to focus on. I had a fractured clavicle, 2 cracked ribs, and a concussion. I was admitted overnight for observation. Marcus landed at 11:30 and was at my bedside by midnight. He sat with me all night. He brought Tim Hortons in the morning, even though the hospital coffee was fine, because he knows I like the ritual of it. He held my hand and didn't say anything terrible about my parents, even though he had every right to. My parents arrived at 2:17 the next afternoon, 14 hours and 43 minutes after the accident. They had been at my parents' house, according to the photos Kayla posted to Instagram that morning, having a movie night with snacks. The timestamp was 9:46 p.m. My mother walked into my room and started talking about Kayla's insurance deductible before she asked how I was. My father stood near the window, with his hands in his pockets, and looked like he was waiting for this to be over. Kayla didn't come at all. I lay in that hospital bed, and I did not cry. I did not say anything. I watched my mother talk, and I felt something very quiet happen in the center of my chest, the way a building settles after the last bolt is tightened. Everything just went still. I asked Marcus to bring me my laptop the next day. I needed to work, I told him, which was half true. I did look at work emails, but I also opened my online banking. I opened my HELOC statements. I opened my Interact transaction history, going back to April 2019. I opened my credit report. I sat with all of it for about 2 hours, the way you sit with a diagnosis. Not with feeling, just with facts. Then I went to my mother's Facebook page. I want you to understand that what I found there was not surprising in the way a surprise is surprising. It was more like recognizing something you'd been told about but never seen. Like when you finally meet someone's childhood home and you understand, suddenly and completely, who they became. My mother had been posting about us for years. Kayla's posts read like a press release. June 2022. So proud of Kayla, launching her new wellness brand this month. True entrepreneurial spirit runs in this family. The brand was an Instagram account that is currently at 340 followers, mostly bots. September 2023. Kayla was asked to speak at a local wellness event last week. Our little influencer. The event was a free pop-up at a yoga studio in Inglewood, with maybe 20 people in attendance. February 2024. Our girls are both thriving. Kayla growing her business and Claire busy with her little engineering projects. Little engineering projects. I had just been named project lead on a $14 million pedestrian infrastructure contract with the city of Calgary. I have my professional engineer designation. I have been published in the Canadian Journal of Civil Engineering. But on my mother's Facebook page, I had little engineering projects, and Kayla had an entrepreneurial spirit. There were 31 posts over 2 years. In not one of them did my mother mention my designation, my projects, my promotions, or my name, without the qualifier busy, or always working, or hard to pin down. In contrast, Kayla appeared in 44 posts, most of them with photos, most of them framed as achievements. Several of the achievements were fabrications. I went back further. My Piang celebration dinner in January 2019. I'd booked a table at Model Milk for 12 people. My parents RSVP'd yes. My mother texted me, at 3 in the afternoon the day of. Honey, Kayla's coming down with something. We think we should stay home with her. So proud of you though. Photos? I ate the meal with Marcus, his parents, and 4 of my colleagues. I paid for the whole table, $1,147, including tip. I smiled in the photos. I told everyone my parents were under the weather. I started a document on my laptop. I titled it Facts. I worked on it for 3 days, still in my arm sling, before I told Marcus what I was thinking. He listened to the whole thing. Then he said, "What do you need from me?" Not "Are you sure?" Or maybe they didn't mean it that way. Just, "What do you need?" I said I needed a witness, and I needed time. In 6 weeks, the Alberta Consulting Engineers Association annual gala was scheduled at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Calgary. I had been nominated for the Young Practitioner Award, under 3-5 category. I'd told my parents in January. My father said wonderful. My mother said make sure you get a photo. I had not confirmed their attendance for the gala table yet. I called them the week I got home from the hospital. I told them I had 4 seats at my table for the gala. I said I'd like them there. My mother said they wouldn't miss it. My father said to let them know where to park. I wrote down the time and date they confirmed. I saved the voicemail. Then I called my director, Shelley Wan, and asked her for 15 minutes on the program. Shelley has run Morrison for 11 years. She is 60 years old, she has her FEC designation, and she has the particular calm of someone who has managed catastrophic structural failures and come out the other side with all the information organized. She listened to what I wanted to do. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I'll give you 12 minutes. Do you want me to introduce you, or do you want to walk in cold?" I said I'd like her there beside me. She said she'd be there. Over the next 5 weeks, I built a presentation. 18 slides. Slide 1 was the timeline from the night of my accident. Every call made. Every timestamp. Every non-answer. I had my phone records. I had the paramedic report. I had the hospital admission paperwork. I had a screenshot of Kayla's Instagram post from that evening, timestamped 9:46 p.m., showing her and my parents on the couch with popcorn and a throw blanket, captioned "Cozy Night In with the Fam." Slides 2 through 5 were financial. The HELOC, the payment history, the monthly e-transfers, the car loan, every number sourced, every document attached. Total over 6 years, $174,800 in Canadian dollars. In 6 years of Interac, e-transfers, and bank payments, equivalent to roughly $82 per day, slides 6 and 7 were my mother's Facebook posts. Side by side. What she posted about Kayla, what she posted about me. I didn't editorialize. I just put them next to each other. Slide 8 was a photo from my P.Ang dinner. Marcus and his parents and my 4 colleagues smiling at the camera. Empty chairs, where my family was supposed to be. Slide 9 was a screenshot of the text my mother sent at 3:02 p.m., the day of the gala she had confirmed attendance for. "Hi sweetie, we're not going to make the dinner tonight. Kayla's having a hard week emotionally. And we think it's better if we stay close to home. We're so proud of you though. Let us know how it goes." I found out 2 days later, from my cousin Linda, that my parents had taken Kayla to teatro that evening for her birthday. Kayla's birthday is in August. Slides 10 through 12 were a summary. Every choice they made documented. Every dollar accounted for. Everything cross-referenced. 247 pages in the supporting folder. The night of the gala, Marcus helped me into my dress. It was navy, simple, good shoulders. I did my own hair. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long moment, and I felt, for the first time, in a very long time, like a person who knew exactly what she was walking into. We arrived at the Hyatt at 6. The ballroom was full, maybe 180 people, engineers and architects and project managers, and firm principals from across Alberta. My colleagues found me immediately, hugged me, asked how my shoulder was healing. My table was near the front. Marcus sat to my left. Shelley sat to my right. The other seats at my table were empty. My parents arrived at 7:12, just before the awards program began. My mother was wearing a blazer I recognized. My father wore a tie. Kayla had come with them, which I had not expected. She looked at her phone while she walked. My mother air-kissed my cheek. "Oh, the room is lovely. Are we at your table?" She looked at the empty seats, the ones she had confirmed. She smiled and sat down without acknowledging that they were 42 minutes late. My father shook Marcus's hand. Kayla sat down and put her phone face up on the table. The program started. There were remarks from the association president. There was a keynote. There were 3 awards before mine. I sat and breathed and watched the room and felt very calm in a way I didn't expect. Not numb, just clear. At 8:40, Shelley Wan stood and walked to the podium. She said she wanted to talk about what engineering actually costs. Not materials costs, not project overruns. The personal cost. She said she had watched a member of her team work 12-hour days and 18-month project cycles and early mornings in -30 weather for 6 years, and had watched that same person quietly support a family that had never once shown up for her. She said she was going to read something into the record. She read the timeline from my accident. Every call, every timestamp, every non-answer. Her voice was completely even. My mother put her hand on my wrist. "What is this, Claire?" I moved my arm away. Shelley said, "I'm going to ask Claire Okafor to come up and say a few words." I stood. My chair scraped on the floor. Marcus squeezed my hand once and let go. I walked to the stage. 18 steps. I took the microphone, and I looked out at 180 faces. Most of them were people I respected. People who had watched me work, people who knew what I did for a living because I had done it in front of them. I saw curiosity, and I saw support, and I saw 3 faces at table 7, frozen. "Good evening. I want to introduce you to some numbers." I clicked the remote. The timeline appeared on the screen. On March 12th, at 5:42 p.m., I was in a car accident on Deerfoot Trail. Fractured clavicle, 2 cracked ribs, concussion, -23 degrees. I called the 2 people who were listed as my emergency contacts out of habit. "I want to show you what happened." I walked through every call. The room was very quiet. I could hear someone near the back shift in their seat. My parents were at a Costco parking lot in northwest Calgary, 31 minutes from the accident. They arrived at Foothills Medical Center 14 hours and 43 minutes after my first call. By then, Marcus had been at my bedside for 14 hours. He had brought me breakfast. He had spoken to my attending physician. He had handled everything. I clicked to the financial slides. In April 2019, my parents asked me to co-sign a $320,000 home equity line of credit against their property in Airdrie. I was 26 years old. They told me it was a formality. They told me they'd handle the payments. They made 4 payments. I showed the payment history. I showed the e-transfer records. I showed the car loan. Total financial support between April 2019 and March 2025, $174,800. Every dollar sourced, every transaction documented. My father stood up. "Claire, this is not the place." Shelley's voice came from somewhere to my left, very quiet, very final. "Ronald, sit down." He sat. I clicked to the Facebook slides. I didn't narrate much. I let people read them. I gave it maybe 20 seconds of silence. You could feel the room registering what they were seeing. This is 6 years of my mother's public record of our family. Kayla appears 44 times. I appear 11 times. In all 11 posts, I am described as busy, hard to reach, always working. In 0 posts, am I identified as a professional engineer. In 0 posts, are my projects mentioned by name. In several posts, Kayla is described as an entrepreneur and a speaker and a wellness leader. I want to show you the current status of those ventures. I showed the Instagram account. 340 followers. Last post, 4 months ago. I showed the wellness event. 22 attendees in a yoga studio. "I want to be clear," I said. "I am not doing this because I am angry. I am doing this because I spent 6 years telling myself a story about my family that wasn't true. And I need to stop telling that story out loud before I can stop believing it privately." I clicked to the photo from my P.Eng dinner. The empty chairs. I said, "This was January 2019. My professional engineer designation dinner. My parents confirmed they'd be there. They canceled at 3 in the afternoon, because my sister was unwell. She was not unwell. She posted photos from a friend's birthday party in Kensington that night." Murmurs. I clicked to the text from the night of this gala. "I received this at 3 this afternoon." My parents canceling tonight's dinner to stay home with my sister during a hard week. They are currently seated at table 7. They did not stay home. They were 42 minutes late, but they came. Someone in the audience laughed. Just one person, quickly stifled. But it released something in the room. I said, I've heard a version of Kayla needs us my entire adult life. When I graduated, when I got my designation, when I got married, when I was in a ditch on Deerfoot, in the dark, in the winter, it was always Kayla. And for a long time, I thought the answer was to need less, to be more self-sufficient, to make myself easy. I thought if I didn't need anything, the fact that I wasn't getting anything wouldn't matter. I looked at my parents, but I have a lot of colleagues in this room, and every single one of them has watched me show up. For projects, for clients, for my team. I show up. And when I was in that ditch, not one of them was within 30 kilometers of me, and every single one of them would have come if I had called. I paused. That's the difference between family and people who share your DNA. 2 of my colleagues spoke after me. Derek Tran, my project manager for 7 years, said he'd driven me to a site inspection the week after my accident because my arm was still in a sling, and I refused to take more time off. And he said if anyone in this room thought I was exaggerating anything about her work ethic, they were welcome to look at the Morrison Project portfolio and count the hours. He said he'd never seen a family fail to show up for someone who showed up for everyone else, and he wanted it on record that my team considered me family in the way that word is supposed to mean. Priya Mehta, a structural engineer from a competing firm who I'd gone through our P.Ing cohort with, said she remembered calling me at 8 p.m. on a Thursday night in 2022, 2 years into the pandemic, asking for a second opinion on a load calculation, and I picked up on the second ring and spent 40 minutes walking her through it, and she said she'd always thought my parents must be extraordinary people to have raised someone like that. She looked at my mother. She said she was sorry to discover that wasn't true. I went back to the microphone. I'm not here for revenge, I said. I want to be honest about that. I'm here because I needed witnesses. Because the version of events my family tells has never included the actual record, and tonight I want the actual record to exist somewhere outside of my laptop. I held up my phone. As of last week, I've been removed from the HELOC with the help of my lawyer and the lender. My parents are now solely responsible for the outstanding balance of $241,000. Monthly payments are $1,940. Their combined income is approximately $4,200 a month. I am aware of what that means for the Airdrie house. That's not my consequence to carry anymore. I also want to say one thing to my parents directly. I said, turning to table 7. I forgive you. I want to be clear that forgiveness is not the same as trust, and it is not the same as access. I forgive you because I need to be free of this, not because you've apologized. You haven't. I forgive you because I have a life I built, and I want to live it without this weight. But the transfers stop tonight. The HELOC is yours. The car loan debt you still owe me, I'm writing off, not because it wasn't real, but because I'm done keeping score. I'm just done. I put the microphone down. The room stood up. My mother was crying. I don't know if they were real tears. I found, standing at that podium with 180 people on their feet around me, that I genuinely did not need to know. Marcus was waiting at the bottom of the stage steps. He didn't say anything. He just held out his hand, and I took it, and we walked back to our table, and I sat down and drank a full glass of water and breathed. Kayla left before the applause stopped. She walked out without looking back. I watched her go. My father came over about 20 minutes later, while the dessert course was being served. He stood at my shoulder. He said, "You didn't have to do this in public." I looked up at him. I said, "You're right. I didn't have to. I chose to." He stood there another moment. Then he walked away. My mother stopped at my chair on her way out. She said, "I hope you're happy now." I told her I thought I might be, eventually. She left. By Friday morning, someone had posted a 40-second clip from the gala to LinkedIn. By Friday evening, it had 28,000 views. By Saturday morning, it was on TikTok, and it had over 200,000. My phone stopped being able to keep up with the notifications, and I turned it face down on the kitchen table, and Marcus made eggs and we watched a movie, and I fell asleep on the couch before 9 o'clock. On Monday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a law office downtown. A woman who identified herself as representing my parents told me they were considering legal options regarding the public disclosure of private financial information. I told her that every financial record I presented was mine, that I was a party to every transaction, that I owned the documentation, and that I had obtained independent legal advice before the gala, specifically on this question. I told her my lawyer's name. She said she'd be in touch. She has not been in touch. 2 weeks after the gala, my cousin Linda texted me. She said the family group chat had been very active. She said a number of our aunts and uncles had opinions. I told her I appreciated her checking in. I told her I wasn't going to engage with the group chat. She said, "For what it's worth, I always knew something was off." I said, "I know. I just needed time to see it myself." The Airdrie house went on the market in April. I saw it on Realtor.ca by accident, while I was looking at something else. 4 beds, 2.5 baths, backing the pond. Listed at $539,000. If it sells near asking, after the HELOC balance and closing costs, my parents will net roughly $280,000. Enough to buy something smaller outright. Enough to start over without my $1,500 a month holding the whole thing together. I didn't call them when I saw the listing. There was nothing to say. Kayla texted me in May. She said I had humiliated the family, that I had aired private business in front of strangers, that I had weaponized my success against people who had always supported me. I read it twice. I typed back. I didn't weaponize anything. I documented it. There's a difference. I hope you find something that makes you genuinely happy, Kayla. I mean that. I blocked her number after I sent it. Marcus asked me that evening how I was feeling. I had to think about it for a moment. I said I felt light. But not the way you feel light when something good happens. More the way you feel light after you've put down something you've been carrying for so long you forgot it had weight. He nodded. He said he'd noticed I'd been sleeping better. I said I had. He said Emma, our golden retriever, seemed more relaxed too. I laughed. I said dogs feel everything. My savings account in June, $31,200. 6 months earlier, it had been $8,900. The difference is the money that used to leave my account every month on the 28th. It just stayed now. I'd set up an automatic transfer of $1,000 into a TFSA and another $500 into an RRSP. I was building something instead of filling a hole. Marcus and I booked a trip to Portugal for September, 10 days. The first vacation we'd taken longer than a long weekend in 4 years. The last time we tried to plan something, we'd had to cancel because my parents needed help with a furnace replacement, and the timing was bad. This time there was nothing competing with it. I booked the flights, and I didn't feel guilty. I went back to site in early May, full duty, shoulder cleared by my physio. Derek brought coffee on my first morning back. The crew gave me a hard time about the sling photos that had gone around the office in March. I gave them a hard time back. It was normal. It was fine. One Thursday afternoon in June, I was doing a site walkthrough in Cochrane, almost exactly the same stretch of highway where the accident happened. I pulled off at the same exit on my way back. I sat there for a minute with the engine running, looking at the median. It looked very ordinary in the daylight. Just concrete and tire marks, and a bit of debris from winter that hadn't been cleared yet. I thought about the minute right after the car stopped, when I was sitting in the dark, trying to figure out how badly I was hurt. I thought about calling my parents and what I expected, which was for them to come. Just to come. No performance, no heroics. Just to get in the car and drive 31 minutes to where I was. They couldn't do it. Not because they didn't have a car, not because they didn't know the way, not because they were too old or too sick or too far. They couldn't do it because Kayla needed something. And Kayla always needed something. And I was the one who was supposed to manage on her own. I'd been managing on my own my entire adult life. They just assumed I always would. I put the car in drive. The highway was clear. I pulled back out onto Deerfoot going south, and I drove home. Marcus had dinner started when I walked in. Emma came and leaned against my legs until I scratched her ears. I set my sight bag down by the door. I washed my hands. I sat at the kitchen table where the phone was still face down from the weekend. I picked it up, turned it over. No missed calls from my parents, no texts from Kayla. Nothing needing to be managed or funded or explained. I set it back down, face up this time. I looked at Marcus across the kitchen. He looked back. "Good day?" he said. "Yeah," I said. "Really good, actually." And I meant it.